Welcome back, Deep Divers. We're diving deep today into some pretty counterintuitive ideas, exploring how sometimes embracing the things we're often told to avoid, like being foolish or selfish or even not caring, can actually lead to a more fearless and authentic life.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to draw wisdom from all sorts of places, from YouTube transcripts to philosophy, really trying to unpack how these seemingly negative traits can become unexpected allies in our quest to live more boldly.
I think you'll be surprised by what we discover along the way.
All right, let's kick things off with this whole idea of being foolish.
Right.
When you hear the word fool, what pops into your head?
I mean, it's not usually a compliment, is it?
Right. We think of someone reckless or maybe lacking common sense.
Definitely not the image of success society paints for us.
Exactly. But what if we flip the script? What if being foolish actually means having the guts to chase those really big dreams, the ones that make other people scratch their heads?
Interesting.
Like, what if the real risk is not taking a chance, not putting yourself out there because you're afraid of stumbling?
I see where you're going with this.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So much progress, so much innovation has come from people who dared to be different, dared to go against the grain.
You're absolutely right.
Think about those artists whose work was initially ridiculed, or scientists who proposed theories that seemed outlandish at the time.
Right. Those who challenge the status quo.
Exactly. And they faced a lot of resistance, probably got called foolish more than once.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
But it was their unwavering belief in their vision, that foolishness, that ultimately led to breakthroughs that reshaped the world.
So you're saying those who dared to be foolish were the ones who truly made a difference?
I think so. And this isn't just about famous figures from history books.
Yeah.
Think about your own life. Have you ever had an idea, a dream that felt almost too big, maybe even a little embarrassing to share because it seemed so out there?
Oh,
I think that hesitation, that fear of being judged or ridiculed, that's where we often hold ourselves back.
it's like a self-imposed barrier.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, that feeling of, oh, this is crazy, this is foolish, is actually a sign that you stumbled upon something truly unique, something that's genuinely you.
Like a signpost pointing toward your true potential.
Exactly. And being foolish in this sense isn't about being reckless or irresponsible.
Right. It's not about throwing caution to the wind.
It's about having the courage to believe in something that others might not see yet.
It's about trusting your own inner compass.
Yes. And that takes guts.
For sure.
If we look at this through the lens of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, things get even more interesting.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about the classic archetype of the hero.
Okay.
They often start out as seemingly ordinary folks, maybe even a bit naive, a bit of a fool, you could say.
Like they don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Right. Like Luke Skywalker, just a farm kid who gets swept up in this galactic conflict.
Or Bilbo Baggins, perfectly content in his hobbit hole until Gandalf shows up and turns his world upside down.
Exactly. Both of them initially seem a little out of their depth, maybe even foolish to take on these huge challenges.
But their willingness to step into the unknown, to embrace that uncertainty, that's what set them on their path.
And their initial foolishness, that lack of pretense, that openness to new experiences, allows them to embark on these transformative journeys.
They don't have all the answers, but they're willing to learn and adapt along the way.
Right. And Campbell pointed out that the hero's journey isn't just about external battles and adventures.
Yeah.
It's about a deep inner transformation.
Right. It's about confronting your own limitations, your own fears.
And the fool's ability to bounce back from setbacks, to learn from mistakes without being completely crushed by them, that resilience becomes essential for navigating both the external and internal challenges.
They have that childlike ability to get back up and try again.
Exactly. And as they progress, that label of fool starts to blur, and they eventually emerge as the hero.
So the fool and the hero, two sides of the same coin.
Right. And both are necessary for the journey.
Now that's a thought-provoking idea.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch.
Nietzsche, always a fascinating, albeit controversial figure.
Right. When people hear Übermensch, it can sound a bit intimidating.
Yeah, like some kind of superhuman being.
But Nietzsche wasn't talking about physical or intellectual superiority.
No, it was something much deeper than that.
It was about this ideal of someone who transcends conventional societal norms and values, who creates their own meaning and lives by their own standards.
Someone who dares to break free from the mold.
Exactly. So the Übermensch is someone who's willing to risk being seen as different, as an outsider, maybe even as a fool, to stay true to their vision.
It's about forging your own path, even if it means going against the grain.
Think about someone like Galileo, who challenged the accepted view of the universe.
Right. Or Van Gogh, who kept painting his unique vision despite facing constant rejection.
They were definitely seen as unconventional, maybe even a little crazy by some.
But their foolishness ultimately led to profound shifts in how we understand the world.
So for our listeners out there, becoming your own Übermensch isn't about being better than everyone else.
No, it's about embracing your individuality.
It's about having the courage to define your own rules, to pursue your own passion, even if the world calls you foolish for it.
It's about that Nietzschean call to self-overcoming, to constantly pushing your boundaries and creating a life that's truly meaningful to you.
And sometimes that means embracing the path of the fool, walking that tightrope between societal acceptance and staying true to your own vision.
It's a delicate balance, for sure.
Let's dive a bit deeper into our inner world and explore Carl Jung's concepts of the shadow and the inner.
Always a journey into the depths of the psyche.
When we hear the word shadow, it can sound a bit ominous.
Yeah, like something dark and scary lurking within us.
But in Jungian psychology, the shadow isn't this inherently evil force.
No, it's more like the hidden parts of our personality.
The feelings, the desires, the memories that we might try to suppress or deny because society has told us they're unacceptable.
It's like those aspects of ourselves we try to keep hidden away.
So where does the fool fit into all of this?
Well, the fool, in many ways, can be seen as an embodiment of the shadow's spontaneity, its unfiltered innocence, its wildness.
Those aspects of ourselves that we might try to tame or control as we get older?
Exactly.
So embracing our inner fool means acknowledging and accepting these hidden parts of ourselves, the good and the bad.
It's about integrating those shadow aspects into our conscious awareness.
And Jung believed that true wholeness and authenticity come from this integration, this process he called individuation.
Right. It's about shedding those societal masks and expectations and becoming who you truly are at your core.
So it's like the fool's journey of venturing into the unknown mirrors this process of individuation.
Absolutely. Just as the fool faces challenges and undergoes transformations along their path, so too do we confront and integrate those shadow aspects as we individuate.
And our dreams and aspirations, in Jung's view, are often the soul's way of guiding us toward this wholeness.
Like whispers from our unconscious, urging us to listen.
And the fool acts as a kind of bridge between those whispers and our conscious mind, encouraging us to pay attention to our deepest longings.
Who looks outside? Dreams. Who looks inside awakes, as Jung famously said.
Now let's shift our focus to Albert Camus and his concept of the absurd.
Camus, the philosopher of rebellion and meaning-making.
It can sound a bit depressing at first, this idea that life is inherently...
Yeah, it can feel a bit bleak if you dwell on it too long.
But Camus wasn't advocating for despair.
No, he saw the absurd as a call to action.
He believed that acknowledging this fundamental conflict between our desire for meaning and the universe's apparent lack of it was actually the first step towards living a more authentic life.
It's like saying, okay, if there's no inherent meaning, then I get to create my own.
So our dreams and aspirations, even if they might seem ultimately insignificant in a vast, indifferent universe, become a way of rebelling against the absurd.
Exactly. It's about saying, I choose to find meaning and purpose in this existence, even if it's not handed to me on a silver platter.
And society often tries to impose its own kind of meaning on us, pushing us towards conventional paths that promise security and acceptance.
Right. The shoulds and ought to that can stifle our true desires.
But those norms can sometimes clash with our deeply personal, maybe even seemingly irrational.
The things that truly light us up, even if they don't make sense to everyone else.
And Camus encourages us to embrace those dreams because of the absurd.
It's like saying, if nothing really matters in the grand scheme of things, why not go after what sets your soul on fire?
Right. Accepting the absurd actually liberates us from those societal pressures, those expectations that can hold us back.
It gives us permission to become the authors of our own lives.
Like Camus said, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion.
Powerful words.
Let's turn to literature for a moment and look at Fyodor Dostoevsky's character, Prince Myshkin, from his novel The Idiot.
Myshkin, such a fascinating and enigmatic character.
He's often perceived as naive, innocent, even foolish.
Yeah, he doesn't quite fit in with the world around him.
But Dostoevsky uses Myshkin's perceived idiocy, his incredible open-heartedness and unwavering empathy to reveal profound truths about the complexities of society.
He's like a mirror reflecting back the hypocrisy and darkness that others try to hide.
And Myshkin's idiocy isn't about a lack of intelligence.
No, it's about this unwavering innocence that allows him to see the world with a different lens.
Untouched by the negativity and cynicism that seem to corrupt others.
He's a reminder of the beauty and purity that can exist within the human heart.
So Dostoevsky is suggesting that this authenticity and innocence, which might be seen as foolish by the world, can actually be a source of strength and insight.
Absolutely. For Dostoevsky, true aspirations are deeply personal, driven by a moral compass that isn't swayed by external pressures.
And Mishkin embodies this beautifully, even if he's misunderstood by those around him.
His famous line, "Beauty will save the world," speaks to that transformative power of genuine innocence and authentic self-expression.
Now let's circle back to philosophy and consider Socrates' famous statement, "I know that I know nothing."
Socrates, the master of paradox and self-examination.
It seems contradictory, but there's a deep wisdom in those words.
It's about humility.
Recognizing the limits of our knowledge and being open to continuous learning.
Exactly. And that humility is essential for growth, especially when we're pursuing our dreams.
So, admitting what we don't know actually empowers us to discover more.
It opens us up to new possibilities, to different perspectives.
And the Socratic method, that constant questioning and challenging of assumptions, becomes a powerful tool for examining the societal norms and conventions that might be holding us back.
By asking why, we start to differentiate between the rules that truly serve us and the ones that are simply limiting our potential.
And pursuing a dream isn't about blindly following a set of instructions. It's about being willing to question, to learn, to adapt as we go.
It's about forging our own unique path.
And Socrates' humility reminds us that that path isn't always a straight line.
There will be twists and turns, detours, and unexpected obstacles.
Let's move on to Viktor Frankl's logotherapy and this powerful idea of finding meaning even in the midst of suffering.
Frankl's insights, especially from his experiences in concentration camps, are incredibly relevant to our discussion.
He observed that those who were able to find a sense of purpose, even in the face of unimaginable hardship, showed remarkable resilience.
It was like their inner strength, their foolishness in refusing to give in to despair, that allowed them to survive.
So pursuing our dreams, even when faced with obstacles or doubt from others, requires a similar kind of foolishness.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing our internal sense of purpose over external circumstance.
Frankl himself exemplified this by mentally drafting his book while imprisoned.
That act of creation, of finding meaning, even in the darkest of time, is incredibly powerful.
It shows that when we align our actions with our values and our sense of purpose, we tap into a source of strength that can help us overcome even the most challenging situations.
It's about finding that inner light, that spark of hope that keeps us going.
Now let's turn to Ralph Waldo Emerson and his philosophy of self-reliance.
Emerson, the champion of individuality and intuition.
How does his idea of trusting our inner voice connect with this theme of being foolish?
Well, Emerson believed that we have this innate wisdom within us, but society often tries to drown it out with its expectations and norms. He encouraged us to tune out the noise and listen to that quiet voice within.
So nonconformity, having the courage to be different and follow our own path, becomes essential for living authentically.
Absolutely. For Emerson, that foolishness of going against the grain is actually a sign of strength, of listening to your own truth.
It's about recognizing that what might be right for everyone else might not be right for you.
And that takes courage.
Emerson believed that our intuition is like an inner compass, guiding us towards our true north, even if the path seems unconventional.
And he urged us to discern between the dreams that come from our soul and the ones that are simply imposed by society.
And to be willing to take that leap of faith, to trust that inner compass, even if it leads us down a road less traveled.
To embrace the foolishness of pursuing what truly sets us on fire.
Finally, let's touch upon Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist and the concept of the personal legend.
The Alchemist, a timeless tale of following your dreams.
Santiago's journey, this young shepherd who sets off in search of treasure based on a recurring dream, beautifully illustrates this idea of embracing.
He's willing to risk everything, to face countless challenges, all because he trusts that inner calling.
And Coelho suggests that so many of us lose sight of our personal legend, our deepest desires, because we get caught up in societal expectations or fear of failure.
We let doubt and fear extinguish that inner spark.
And Santiago's journey shows us that sometimes the most foolish act is actually the wisest.
To follow your heart, even if it doesn't make sense to the world.
And the alchemist in the story wisely points out that fear is the biggest obstacle to pursuing our personal legend.
It's what keeps us stuck in our comfort zones, playing small.
And Coelho uses the metaphor of alchemy to represent the transformation that happens along the way.
The process of turning lead into gold, of refining ourselves through the challenges and trials we face.
And he emphasizes that the journey itself, with all its twists and turns, is just as valuable as reaching the final destination.
It's in the becoming, the evolving, that we truly discover who we are.
So we've really explored this idea of being foolish, but let's move on to our second, seemingly negative trait, selfishness.
Yes, selfishness. a word laden with negative connotations.
But we're reframing it here, looking at it from a different perspective.
Exactly. We're talking about self-love and self-prioritization as essential for a fulfilling life.
Because the truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. You can't give what you don't have.
So taking care of your own needs, setting boundaries, saying no when you need to, that's not selfish. It's self-preservation.
It's about recognizing that your well-being is a foundation, not an afterthought.
It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first, before helping others.
And that allows you to show up more fully, more authentically, in all areas of your life.
So actively prioritizing your own well-being actually gives you more energy and resilience to pursue your goals and to contribute to the world in a meaningful way.
Precisely. When you're depleted, you're running on fumes.
You can't give your best to others or to your dreams if you're constantly neglecting your own needs.
So this healthy form of selfishness is about recognizing that your happiness and well-being are essential, not something to feel guilty about.
And it's deeply connected to self-love, isn't it?
Absolutely. Self-love is about accepting yourself fully with all your flaws and imperfections and treating yourself with kindness and respect.
It's about recognizing your inherent worth.
And healthy selfishness is the action that flows from that self-love.
It's about setting boundaries, making choices that support your well-being, even if they don't always align with others' expectations. It's about saying no without guilt and prioritizing self-care.
You need a certain degree of selfishness to create space for self-love. And that self-love then fuels a more constructive and healthy form of selfishness.
It's a beautiful cycle.
It really is.
Let's see what different philosophical perspectives have to say about this idea of healthy self.
Okay, let's start with Carl Rogers.
He emphasized unconditional positive regard, believing that self-acceptance and self-love are crucial for personal growth and self-action.
Right, that valuing yourself shouldn't be contingent on external validation.
And Abraham Maslow, in his hierarchy of needs, placed self-esteem and self-respect as essential for reaching our full potential, for achieving self-actualization.
And that pursuit of self-actualization can be seen as a form of healthy selfishness.
It's about investing in your own growth and development.
Now let's look at Aristotle. He considered self-love to be a necessary component of eudaimonia, which is essentially about living a virtuous and fulfilling life.
He believed that pursuing what's good for you, cultivating wisdom and virtue, ultimately benefit society as a whole.
It's like saying that taking care of yourself allows you to contribute more effectively to the world.
And Ayn Rand famously advocated for the virtue of selfishness, arguing that pursuing your own happiness through rational self-interest is the highest moral.
As long as it's done without infringing on the rights of others.
Right. It's about recognizing that your happiness matters.
And what about Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher?
He emphasized self-control and inner freedom, believing that prioritizing your inner peace and managing your reactions to external events is crucial for living a good life.
It's about focusing on what you can control, your own thoughts and actions, and letting go of what you can't.
And Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist, sought living authentically, being true to your own values and beliefs as a core expression of self-love and healthy selfishness.
It's about taking responsibility for your choices and creating a life that aligns with who you truly are.
And even Eastern philosophies touch upon this idea of self-care and self-love.
Right. Buddha's middle way encourages a balanced approach, with self-love understood as compassionate care for your own well-being.
It's about finding that middle ground between self-indulgence and self-neglect.
And Erich Fromm believed that the capacity to love others is actually rooted in self-love.
It's like saying you can't truly give love if you haven't first learned to love yourself.
It all comes back to that essential foundation.
So it seems that this reframed concept of selfishness has a pretty solid philosophical backing.
Yeah, it's not just about being self-centered or greedy.
It's about recognizing your own inherent worth and prioritizing your well-being so you can show up fully in the world.
It's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
All right, let's move on to our final seemingly negative concept, the art of not caring.
Ah, yes, not caring. Another word that often gets a bad rap.
But we're not talking about apathy or indifference.
No, it's about being more selective with your attention and energy.
Recognizing that not everything deserves a piece of your mental and emotional real estate.
It's about choosing your battles wisely.
Exactly. Because constantly worrying about things you can't control or seeking validation from people who don't truly matter.
It drains your energy and leaves you feeling depleted.
So intentionally choosing not to care about certain things actually frees up mental space for joy, for purpose, for living a more authentic life.
It's about creating that mental and emotional breathing room.
It's about empowering yourself to focus on what truly matters.
So not caring in this sense is about setting healthy boundaries, right?
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that you can't please everyone, and that's okay.
It's about letting go of the need for external validation.
And trusting your own inner compass.
Now, what are some philosophical viewpoints that support this idea of selective not caring?
Stoicism offers some great insights here.
Right? The Stoics, with thinkers like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, emphasize the dichotomy of control.
They believe that we should focus our energy on what we can influence, our own thoughts and actions, and practice indifference towards what we can't.
Like the weather or other people's opinions.
Exactly. It's about choosing serenity over stress.
And Epicureanism also aligns.
They emphasize the pursuit of tranquility and freedom from anxiety, and which often means letting go of societal expectations or the fear of things like death.
Right, not letting those things weigh you down.
And then there's Søren Kierkegaard's leap of faith.
He believed in embracing uncertainty and not getting bogged down by trying to predict every outcome.
It's about being present in the moment and taking action, even if you don't know exactly where.
And Buddhism teaches detachment and non-attachment, which is about recognizing the impermanent nature of all things and not clinging too tightly to outcomes or expectations.
It's about finding peace and freedom in the midst of change.
And Nietzsche's philosophy of life affirmation encourages us to embrace all of life's complexities and to create our own values rather than blindly adhering to traditional morality.
It's about forging your own path, even if it's unconventional.
And finally, Camus, with his concept of the absurd, suggests accepting the inherent meaninglessness of the universe and not wasting energy searching for external meaning.
Instead, focus on creating your own meaning and purpose, finding what resonates with you, regardless of what the world might say.
It's about taking ownership of your own experience.
So these are all pretty powerful philosophical perspectives on the art of not caring.
They offer different lenses through which to view this idea of selective detachment.
Now, how can we actually apply this art of not caring in our daily lives?
It starts with self-awareness.
Taking the time to identify your values, your goals, what truly matters.
And then consciously practicing acceptance of uncertainty.
Recognizing that you can't control everything.
And being willing to challenge those societal expectations that might not align with your true self.
It's about asking yourself, am I living by my own standards or someone else's?
And embracing the absurdity of life, as Cam suggests.
Finding humor in the unexpected. Not taking everything so seriously.
And mindfulness practices can be incredibly helpful in cultivating that sense of presence and non-attachment.
Allowing you to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment and to choose where you direct your energy.
It's like creating a space between you and your reaction.
Wow, this has been a really thought-provoking deep dive into these three seemingly negative concepts.
And how they can actually be reframed to empower us to live more authentically and fearlessly.
Absolutely, it's all about
Embracing a bit of foolishness allows us to pursue our dreams with more courage and conviction.
practicing healthy selfishness through self-love creates the foundation for a more fulfilling life.
And selectively not caring about the things that don't truly serve us frees up mental space and energy for what does.
So for our listeners out there, we challenge you to consider what societal expectations or personal fears might be holding you back from being a little more foolish, selfish, or uncaring.
What small step could you take this week to experiment with one of these reframed concepts?
It might just be the key to unlocking a more authentic, more joyful, and ultimately more fearless version of yourself.
It's definitely worth exploring.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving.
And keep questioning.